hawakuwa wanakula mali ya umma, instead walikuwa wana protect mali ya umma. Siku hizi wako after kukula na sio kura. Juu hata mpiga kura debeni hawajali kama amekula. Kitambo kulikuwa na true love, waya mademu waliolewa wakiwa virgin na penzi ya dawa bado ilikuwa high, na si kama sasa hivi yenye mtu mdogo ashajua mambo ya ball na bozi wa still hana goals. Kama ningekuwa pastor ningepreach mwokoke, na kama ningekuwa mwizi ningewaibia niomoke. Juu generation yetu iko, I think tutakosa mayouth shoke. Itabidi tuchoree kukata maji, tushikane tukuze vipaji sisi. Nakumbuka hizo sweet days nikiamshwa na ndege, na siku hizi huwa naamshwa na makelele ya jirani juu walishakata miti. Kitambo the city was clean, lakini karibu Dandora hoya dam site inafanya watu wao wahare. Haki siku hizi si makarao huko na madharau. Juko na dreadlocks, wao automatically wewe ni mwizi. Siku hizi ile usingizi ya 444 huwa na feel 6 asubuhi. The night is always on my scary bed. Juu hizi imekuwa rampant. Hata Nairobi town nikitembea wananijaji wanasema nakaa mwizi. Kitambo cost ya life ilikuwa simple, sinajua hata Steve mwenyewe angehambo. But siku hizi maisha imekuwa ni kama chess, najua hata magambo hawawezi fambo. Nakumbuka modo wangu akiniambia nisome nitapata kazi, na saa hii kitu huwa nashikanisha kwa mtaa tu ni jaba. Na mapenzi ya siku hizi ni kama kaosh tu, unaosha gari vizuri kisha unapata msee mwingine akiendesha tu. Na nashangaa mbona siku hizi huwa nakaukiwa mdomo, kumbe kuna wasee pahali wananimezea mate. Sinapenda past venye hakukuwa na story ya kutuma fare. Instead siku hizi ni fear women. Napenda past venye tuli appreciate culture yetu. Jua class ndogo walionekana kwa noti ya dhao. Na nasikia siku hizi pilipili ni matajiri tu. Juma hustlers uchungu wamepitia kupata hiyo chakula. Sidhani kama wanaweza ongeza uchungu wengine ndani yake. I go by the name Palma the Poet. Thank you.
All right, again, this is welcome to the political village. You're going to be interacting with Troweza. The country lead was here, and so I'll be able to introduce. Ama kizungu imekuwa mingi. Ni sana. Munaelewa kidogo lakini niko kwa kamera nisichome picha bwana. Sawa. All right, so you're also going to be interacting with Itanya Youth Network, of which I am the director. And so it is a pleasure and an honor to be here to moderate this session with you. And I think without much further ado, allow me to read the bio of Mr. Willis Onyango, who is the Youth Cafe Director. Please have your seat. Youth Cafe Director. He should be able to introduce us to what we are about to do today, because one of the great grand things we'll be doing today, other than the panel discussion, mkiboeka sana munaninulia mikono niweke break kidogo, sawa? Kwanza niko na icebreaker kali. All right, so one of the things that we're going to be doing is just launching the comprehensive analysis of youth participation in Kenya's general elections. That's one of the grand things we're going to do today, discussions around it. I understand that we're going to be welcoming the governor, so we are getting ready. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Willis Onyango. All right, so Mr. Willis Onyango is the executive director of the Youth Cafe, an award-winning youth organization symbolizing youth empowerment in Africa and beyond. A visionary leader, allow me to read it please, a visionary leader passionate about social justice. Willis has dedicated his career to creating opportunities for young people to fulfill their potential. Under his leadership, the Youth Cafe has launched the African Youth Foundation as an independent funding organ of the Youth Cafe for empowering youth to take charge of their lives by giving them necessary opportunities. If you're writing it down, it's a good way to network. One of the ways you need to network is just to find out what the person is doing. All right, so with a master's degree in innovations and entrepreneurship management from the University of Nairobi, bachelor's degree in international diplomacy, civic leadership institute from Kansas State University, Willis has a solid academic background that has informed his work in the field of youth development. Under Willis's leadership, the Youth Cafe has trailblazed youth-led development, managing an annual portfolio of projects and empowering thousands of young people through skills, training, mentorship, and entrepreneurship programs. His commitment to youth-led development has earned him a seat at the table with global leaders, including serving as a youth representative to the UN high-level panel of eminent persons in post-2015. Born and raised in Kenya, Willis is passionate for youth development, his passion was sparked by his experiences growing up in a disadvantaged community. Maybe he'll share a little bit about that. He has made it his mission to ensure that young people in similar circumstances have access to the resources they need to succeed. As executive director of the Youth Cafe, Willis is committed to building a world where young people can realize their full potential and contribute to their communities, a shared passion that we have. Willis has also authored books and book chapters such as the Kenya Youth Manifesto, Securitizing Youth and Young People's Role in Global Peace and Security. His articles on integrated youth empowerment have been published in The Guardian, Huffington Post, Apolitical, Open Democracy, among other media outlets. Willis sits on the World Health Organization's Global CSO Steering Committee. So please, one day somebody's going to do this for you with a standing ovation. Please rise up on your feet.
For and a great introduction. Today we are here to reflect. So it is a reflective session. It is a learning session, as well as stock-taking opportunity for us to really interrogate ourselves where young people sit with respect to, we realized that that particular election saw a drop in the percentage of number of young people who voted compared to 2017, while we would have liked the trends where youth participation in electoral processes increase rather than diminish. We are confronted with a situation where increasingly we see young people apathetic to electoral processes, apathetic to showing up to vote, to taking voters' card, and to making their voice heard in key moments such as that of a general election. So today, over the last 1 year, we have worked, to collect data, huge amounts of data, from key institutions that are in charge of overseeing the elections in Kenya, such as the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, and their CEO has been very forthcoming with data with regards to youth candidates, youth registered in political parties, and young people who were eventually elected and nominated in various positions. We also benefited from data from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and I'm glad that we have Mr. Wakoko here, who will shed more light from also his practical point of view of what he's seeing in terms of the trends of this, because we cannot do all this without talking to young people themselves directly. So we had a lot of focus groups, we had interviews, we had, key informant to weigh in, to bring their expertise in terms of trends, what they have seen, and what are the opportunities and the challenges going forward. But just some highlights is it's broken down into a national level outlook, but also county level outlook, because what devolution did for us is to devolve governance processes, including that of youth participation. So young people have an opportunity to elect representatives or offer themselves to be elected in positions, including those at the county levels. At the national levels, we found that nearly 27% of young people stood to be for various seats, to contest and vie, offered themselves as candidates in various seats. But out of those who stood for elections, only 9% were elected. And this, of course, is because of a myriad of factors. One, of course, we know the cost of running an election is very prohibitive for many young people. The Electoral Financing Act has not been, effected. Therefore, the more older actors in politics have the opportunity to spend, the millions that they have to the disadvantage of young people who may not have amassed, the resources and the networks to effectively, compete. But young people are a big subset. In Kenya, the constitution defines a youth as a person aged between 18 to 35, under 35. But when we looked at, for instance, the largest cohort group of registered youth voters, they were youth aged between 30 to 34. So what does this tell us? I think it shows us that young people, as they grow up, they want to be more civically engaged, but as they are younger, perhaps this was seen particularly in the demographic of youth aged between 18 to 24. They were less registered as voters compared to the older categories and cohort of youth. So I think this is lessons for us all to learn. We have to appeal not only to the older category of youth, but also the younger ones, and franchise them or work with them through a process through which they can feel that their voice is heard and they want to be a participant, an active participant in the whole electoral process. But at the youth also competed, nationally in various positions. For instance, National Assembly, we have so far 17 youth elected in National Assembly. At the Senate, we have 9. At the County Assembly, this was, I think, the biggest highlight, because within county assemblies, we have 317 elected young members of county assemblies. But out of all these 317, only 14 are young women. So the question begs, in terms of gender disparity, and because young people consist of young men and women, and do we have a process that leaves our young women behind, or takes all young people towards their participation in the discourses of our time? Compared to 2017, we saw, and I made this reference yesterday when the leader of majority leader was here, that we saw a decrease of 5% nearly compared to 2017 figures of young people who are registered as voters. The young female voters is at 49%, but we are also, looking forward. So we've not only, aggregated data, or generated insights from it, but are looking at what can we learn from it and what recommendations can we forge for a better future. And we have made a raft of recommendations. The whole report is quite bulky, but the recommendations, are targeted at various key institutions, including political parties, including young people themselves, because I think after all is said and done, the decision is with the youth to play the active role. To key institutions like the IBC, the ORPP, the political parties, and international organizations who really support immensely, I think, the processes of elections in a democracy such as Kenya. Other institutions like the immigration, or the department in charge of registration of voters, because we saw nearly over 2 million new registered voters. But if you look at the data from the statistics body, there is far much more that are eligible to register as voters, but they did not register, which means they don't have a voter's card while they have attained the age of 18 years. So it means a lot in terms of civic education that is also comprehensive, because what we have seen before is that these kind of processes or intense activities around elections are only thought about during the electioneering year. But we want to believe that an election is not an event. It is a process. It is a 5-year process that should take young people throughout the whole process. So actually, as we speak, there should be just as much effort towards youth voter registration or acquisition of identity card as during the moment of, for instance, mass voter registration. But we also, of course, developed a youth manifesto as a precursor to the election, and this also has its own, recommendation. And we are glad that the current administration has largely adopted the manifesto up to 89% to implement, the recommendations and proposals that are coming from that body of work. And we also want to see, this being tracked, because as the national discussion takes shape after elections, the key question is what the promises that were made to young people. Where are we with the promises that were made to young people before elections? Because this is incredibly important, since, for instance, the current administration has a youth charter, which again largely draws from the youth manifesto, but how far is it being implemented? But for youth in political parties, yesterday, and this is a political party expo, there has been a lot of focus on youth involvement in political parties. And maybe Wakonko would speak more to this. The allocation of political parties fund allocate nearly 30% of that fund to be used for SIGs, the special interest groups. But we do not know to what extent that fund trickles down to youth leagues, for instance, in those political parties, or to support specific youth candidates on specific political party tickets. So this is a key issue that can also resolve the whole question around financing of election for young people, so that the level there's a level playing field for all generations to take part actively. But most importantly, I think it is incumbent upon all of us to have concerted advocacy, and not only to agitate for youth issues in the year of election, but even throughout the whole processes, the 5-year cycle, because we need to see more engagement within that is framed as a 5-year cycle engagement, rather than a 1-year electioneering year cycle of engagement, where we see a lot of activity, for instance, mass voter registration and political party mobilization. And I think this can help to enfranchise more young people and bring more young people to the table. But today actually was not my day. Today we have distinguished panelists, and I'll hand over to Daphne. There is far much more information to share, for instance, around how the youth performed in various counties, youth performance in various counties, and youth performance within political parties, which was also very, very eye-opening, because we saw very different dynamics. For instance, Uasin Gishu had the highest registered youth as a county in a political party, and that is UDA, followed by ODM, and not in any other county, but in Nairobi County. So there are a lot of lessons to learn, and best practices to learn from, and pointers that we can pick to improve, and then ask ourselves what this means for instance, discussions around gender equality, access to resources, access to particularly economic opportunities, which most young people are also very keen about, and what this means for the future of elections and future of participation generally in Kenya. Are we going to have more young people participate, or are we going to have this as a report where we don't learn from, and therefore we perpetuate a cycle where history repeats, as it were, itself? On that note, I will hand over to Daphne to take over the next panel. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Please celebrate Mr. Willis Onyango again. Please do celebrate him again. All right, anything that you have learned or picked up from his entire speech? Maybe let me hear one or two. I have a flower that I've been given because today is International Women's Day. I want to gift somebody this particular flower. Anything that you've caught from what he was saying today, maybe you want to share? about what he has said concerning what you're going to learn today, because again, I want to make this discussion very participative, very inclusive. Inamaanisha unaweza bonga. Ka uko na point ya kutoa, we shoot mkono, nitakunote down. Ka uko na karatasi tumana itanifikia. I'll be able to express what you're trying to say whilst I'm standing here. Anybody who's learned anything concerning what you were saying, even what the document is all about, if you want to share something, this is your 5 minutes and 5 seconds of fame. Utakuwa kwa kamera bana, na itakupindukia na nitakuletea hadi mic. Hapo sawa, simama. Simama my friend. Please celebrate him. This is confidence. Even come up here to the front. Kamera bwana. Please celebrate him. Let him not be shy. Unajua vina kwanga awkward kukinyamaza. Okay. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Thank you very much. My name is Brian Kithinji. I work for Policy Action Initiative. We are a youth-led organization that does policy research, analysis, and a little bit of capacity building to empower young people on the policies that we have. The presentation was very informative because there's one aspect that he talked about which is very important, and that is gender disparities. Like out of the 314 young people who were elected as MCAs, only 14 were women. And whenever we talk about youth representation, we always assume as if youth is one gender, but there are different genders, there are different, it's not a homogeneous group. So that specific focus is very, very important. And then we realize that according to our country, the disenfranchisement of women, until the reason why we have affirmative action, that was a very, very good thing. I just wanted to build upon that by asking something probably the panel will come and speak about is, could the reason why the percentage of young people being involved in the election registration in 2022, the reason why it went down is because of the Universities Amendment Act of 2016, because that act limited young people from participating in elective politics in campuses. And we know that campus is the entry to anything you want to do in life. If you want to become an activist, it starts in campus. If you want to do politics, it starts in campus. So could that act be one of the reasons why we saw the voter turnout actually go down from 2017 to 2022 when we had a trend of it going up? Then lastly, also building up, and this may be a by the way, is when you look at, there's always this term of young people being 75% of the population, but you know children are 52% of the population, and anybody below the age of 18 years is actually a child. So when you look at the percentage of young people between 18 and 35, because children cannot vote, they cannot vie for a position, it's actually 23%. And then we said that 27% of the people who were elected were between ages 18 to 35. So could be our representation is actually correct. Probably now we should talk about lowering the voting age to around 16, because by 16 in Africa, you are already developed to handle the physical situations and everything. Probably lastly, again, just 1 minute probably to add this, is could we also, when we are talking about youth participation, could we talk about reforming the Registration of Persons Act? Because we know that for you to register as a voter, you need to have an ID card. But in Kenya, the process of even you registering to get a birth certificate, for example, is very, very lengthy. And when you look at the northern counties, and this is data from your reports actually, you find only 13% of people, 13% of births are registered in places like in Mandera. And then ID of the 10,000 young people who apply for an ID every day, how many people get it? So could we look at an overall picture of our laws when you talk about youth participation in political processes, not just the financing part? Thank you.
Wow.
I hope I made sense.
I think you have. Here's your flower. Karibu sana. Wapi makofi yake? All right, I don't know whether I should give one more, just go straight into the program, but since you've already lifted up your hand, please rise up, come to the front, and maybe say something. No, be confident, come here. We all want to see you. Clap for him so that it's not awkward for him. Introduce yourself, and we're ready to hear from you, sir.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Mark, and I'm a student here. Yeah, so I just noted two things, and I needed to pick up something crucial from whatever our last speaker said. One, we always told that it's time for the youths, or we are going to do this for the youths and stuff. And when you look at our government in both national and county, then you find that there's low representation of those very same youth in those offices, you see. So I was just, maybe we are discussing, right? So can we do something at least about it so that at least we can have a de facto representation of the youths there? There's something, again, I've noted. For you to become a president in this country, one, you'll realize that you don't need to be you shouldn't be a youth. Funniest. Because you have to be, a youth is from which age to which age? 2? And then for you to become a president, you have to be? For youth is from 2? Are you sure 35? Are you sure? 35, 34? Which? You sure? So now, this is the thing. I needed, like, let's have a conversation where actually we can put the youth into. Let's not be told that this is a ministry we are being handled. Maybe it's a youth ministry, but we are giving the opportunity maybe to somebody who doesn't even relate to us, at least. And then for the youths, go for those seats, they are yours. Have a sober discussion about everything, about anything you want to do, achieve and stuff. And then let's have a meaningful conversation regarding the youth and a full participation to maybe the growth of our country. That's it.
Okay, awesome. Makofi yake. Okay, I think I want to invite, I want to break the ice a bit also. So I want to invite Kizude to come right here and share with us his performance before we start, right? I'm told also just now Governor Lusaka is about to step in. So in the meantime, let's just hear from a young man with a young voice and a rising voice. Also in this generation matters what we are trying to discuss today. Also guys, I like that. So what you have just spoken about right now, I don't know whether our panelists have written it down. If not, do you have a book and a pen? Or can you get it? All right, maybe get a book and a pen, write it down real quick, pass it over to me. So I'll be able to air it out or call out your name and then you'll be able to say it again. But we have jotted it down. So do write that, and also the other gentleman that has just spoken. So Mr. Kizude, where are you? Kizude. Let's rise up on our feet as we welcome Mr. Kizude. All right, in the meantime, please stretch as Kizude gets ready. Stretch kidogo. Stretch kidogo. All right, please lift up your hands in the air. Inua kabisa. Najua mumekaa sana chini. Inua hadi chini. Inua hadi chini. Najua kile nimesema bana. Inua hadi chini. All right, stretch to the side. Stretch to the other side. Stretch to the back. Ita mtu wako nyuma yako. So can we do like a real quick triceps? I want to, this is what I'm going to do. I know some of you know this game. When I lift up my hands, I want to call it out as Jamaica, okay? All right. Lift up your hands and I want to call it out as Jamaica. Juni gani? Ni Jamaica. Nikishika hapa chini nimeita Kenya. Sijui kwa nini nimesema hivyo lakini pia mimi ni Mkenya. All right, nikisema hapa chini ni? Hapa juu? Hapa? 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 Hapa Tanzania. All right, shoulders nitasema nini? Alafu miguu nitasema Uganda. Okay. Do you have Ugandans here? Nimesikia yes. Hey! All right, Juni gani? Jamaica, miguu. Tumbo. Hiyo nimeshika. Tapa kwa shoulders. All right, so I'm going to call out and I want you to be your neighbor skipper. Ukiona mahali tuwe ni point enda mwita hapa mbele tuaje venye tutafanya. Sawa? Are you ready? Ask your neighbor whether you're ready. All right, Jamaica. Is somebody watching out for the friend? Waiti hapa mbele, we're going to do a small like utatu dance here. So tuko na DJ, you're going to banjuka for us for a bit. All right, Jamaica. Kenya. Uganda. Tanzania. Ananipatia poker face, uone inafanya sawa. Jamaica. Kenya. Tanzania. Uganda. Na huko tulienda Uganda. Angalia mtu anasema Uganda. Nilisema Uganda una walk. Alright, let's do one last one. Uganda. Uganda. Tanzania. Kenya. Nasema Kenya. Jamaica, have your seat. I think we have some few 2 minutes. So I know we were supposed to call up Mr. Kizude Wacha Ajisot Kidogo, but in the meantime, could I have Mr. Dr. Sierra to give us, I know you have a 10-minute keynote speech for us before we call you up as a panelist. It's such an honor to have you with us, everybody. Mr. Dr. Sierra, country lead Twaweza. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes to address us. All right, so Dr. Sierra, I know is supposed to engage us today and share with us his thoughts on matters youth engagement in governance and electoral processes. So please keep a keen ear. Some of these sessions, by the way, let me give you, look more intelligent when you're writing notes. So if you want to look intelligent, just write some few notes, ask some few questions. You never know who is gonna hear from you. You also look highly smart. So Dr. Sierra, karibu sana. All right, here you go. Makofi ya Dr. Sierra yako wapi?
Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and also an honor. And it's quite interesting to hear what my brother just shared. It was like a recap on what we had done before. So it's the work that we did before them was quite complimentary, because for them they looked at the election, how the participation, how the youths were elected and all that. But previously we had worked on why citizens are not willing to participate. Before I get to that, maybe I need to introduce my organization. It's called Twaweza East Africa. We have offices in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. And basically what we do is to bridge the gap between citizens and policymakers. So we go out there, collect information, and then bring it forward like in such a baraza, such that we can have citizens sit on that side and policymakers on this side. They discuss on what they can do. So basically what we do is to amplify citizens' voices such that we can have an engagement between the two parties. So last year, even 2021, we did a lot on election. One of the questions that we wanted to answer is, why do we have poor registration, low turnout and all that? And we went around the country and asked citizens, kwa nini hamtaki kuvote? Ama why don't you want to register? And the most shocking thing was among the youth and women, because the numbers were quite low. For instance, like among those who aged, and I think they're the majority here, between 18 and 24, those who are willing to participate in the election was just 56%. So that's quite low compared to those above 50 who are at 84%. So I believe you can get to see, and there are significant implications, because those who are aged 50, they are the minority, true or false? Ni kweli ama si kweli? And most of the decisions that are made, nani wana affect sana? Is it the youths ama nani? Because you are the people who would want to be employed. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Yeah, we would also want to participate in these discussions, of which you find, and I think it's something that I need to post to the youths. It's like, kama mimi ni youth nisimame, you wouldn't find anyone backing me. Ni kweli ama si kweli? You just want, it's the same thing with gender, wanawake na wanaume. Where you find that among the population, I think all of us understand what demography, whatever is, where you have women and men, they are always above 50%. Men wakiwa 49, women are always above 50, around 51, true or false? But when they go to vote, you find them backing men. Now, does it mean that we don't have confidence in us? That's the question that we need to understand, because youth akisimama hakuna mtu atambaki, ni kweli? So those are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, and some of the issues that we had to work quite closely with IEBC, because they're also shocked to hear how willing the youths are ready to participate in the election, because the numbers were quite low. So we were quite happy because working hand in hand with IEBC, and what they did is to customize the messaging such that they can be able to target more youths. And you're happy that the number went up, although compared to 2017 the number was still low. But I'm imagining that if such an activity never happened, such intervention, the numbers could have been far much lower than that. Now, some of the issues that maybe were brought out why the youths, even other people, were not willing to participate, the reason why I was hindering them, one of them, hawana imani na wale wanaoelect. True or false? As in, I go to vote, I spend a lot of time on the queue, and whatever I propose, hakuna kitu itafanyika. That's quite discouraging. True or false? So I think even among those who are elected, I think they have some responsibility to do whatever they have promised. I know most of us maybe are disappointed in one or another. Maybe the MCA you elected in your place, hata njia hapo kwenye hajatengeneza. And I think majority of our elected leaders, basically that's how they behave. But I think we as the youths can change this conversation. Because already we understand what we are facing. And unfortunately, and I think you're my witness, some of the youths elected to this position, even at the parliament, whenever they go there, wananyamaza. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Even the MCAs, in my place we have an MCA who is, I think, below 35. And most of the time I find him associating with wazee wale wana mashamba and all that. It's like he has abandoned us, and we are the people who made him to be there. So well, that's one of the reasons why the youth say that hawana mtu ama they're not willing to participate. And another issue was that they don't have any suitable candidate who entice them to participate. Now, how do we position ourselves such that we can entice ama we can ignite that flame to encourage people to participate? And I think it's also a high time for us, at least we engage one-on-one, we bring relevant issues. We have so many problems that we need to address such that we can be able to be viable enough to be elected. Now, the most depressing thing was that hata nikienda kuvote, hakuna kitu itabadilika. Ni kweli? So you expect things to move toward this direction, but hata saa zingine things worsens. So those are some of the issues that were brought up by wananchi on why they were not willing to participate. Now, one more question that we need to understand in terms of engagement, and I think this is something new among the researchers to address, how do we reach out to the youths? Maybe we normally use the magari kwa barabara nini where you get some few coins and all that. But from the research that we conducted, found that if the television can be used well and social media, probably it can be able to reach more youths than the traditional methods. And I think it's something that need to be encouraged kwa social media, kwa Twitter, and I believe like 80% of the youths participate in such activities. Basically, we can easily be able to reach out to them, customize the messaging such that it can captivate the youths to participate. Now, another question that we also wanted to know, do you really understand what participation mean? Do you understand what participation mean? I'm a public participation. Because if you don't attend these barazas, are we going to change anything? Because that's where we are going to air our grievances. That's when we'll be heard. But if you are not willing, hata afadhali niende kukula miraa pahali rather than attending those sessions. And unfortunately, which we have also seen, and this should be sent to the leaders, is that even when I go there, when I'm above 35, hata nikiweka mkono for 24 hours, no one will pick me to air my issues. So they have people, so that they can say whatever they want to say and address. So I think we need a total reform, starting from the leadership and even among ourselves. And another thing that we need also to understand is that saa zingine we are so timid, we are not confident in ourselves, and basically that's why we are intimidated by other generations such that they can continue dominating the scene. So if we can be able to get the right messages, if we can be able to get the right platform, and if we can continue participating and even increase the time and interest in terms of participation, because participation is not only during the election, participation even during other forums. Like tukitana hapa, wase wanastahili kuwa wamekuja hapa wengi sana, but unfortunately that's not happening. I know some of the issues that have been raised ni kwamba hakuna kazi nini and all that. Yes, they are there, but if we refrain from participating in these events, do you think anything will be solved? Kweli kuna kitu itabadilika? Hakuna kitu itabadilika. Now the other good thing is that we have devolved governance in Kenya, where you have the national. So assume that you can be able to become an MP. Do you think unaweza shindwa kuwa MCA? And I think from the report that was released, it's around, is it 12%? Yeah, of those who were elected were the youths. Now, suppose we aim that in 2027, that number will double. Kutakuwa na shida. Because the people that you're going to influence, you're going to talk to, is within your locality. And I think we can be able to do a lot. Maybe if we are unable to get to the MP position, at least if you have some impact at grassroots level, where most of these whatever zinafanyika, I believe we are going to have some impact. Now, with all that, whatever I've shared, I think this is a wake-up call for us to change, to reform, to have confidence in ourselves, and also to participate and use the right channels so that we can air our grievances. I wouldn't want to take a lot of time. Allow me to stop there, and as I welcome other participants to come and share whatever they are prepared. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Please celebrate him. Please celebrate him. All right, mpigie makofi tena. All right, so I want us to just get ready right now. I want to see, thank you, sir. Please, don't be shy, it's fine. Thank you so much. Great, I have this particular, where? Ini ese. Where? Oh, this is you? Perfect, no wonder. All right, great. If you have other questions, I know that Governor Lusaka is about to come in here. So we want to also engage him with particular questions. I know Mr. Willis will also be engaging with him, but I want your voice to be heard. So ideally, if you have something to say or you have some few questions maybe concerning youth participation, in such dialogue, in governance, in electoral processes, in voting, just in areas where your voice can be heard, we really want to have that conversation today. I know there are some particular areas where we'll be discussing data as concerning why there was an increase in voter registration in the country between 2017 and 2022, and why there was a decrease in matters young people. If ideally we are saying the young people, or rather Africa, is really going to be led by the next generation of young leaders such as you and I, even everyone that is seated here, then we need to understand what is it that you want to know, like what the gentleman was saying. What is it that you want done that we now allow you and give you space to actually participate more, want to vote, want to vie. Another thing we want to understand is why most young people, when they're looking to vie, will only run for MCAs, maybe because it's a low-hanging fruit, and you're not probably vying for other oppositions, because right now we only have one governor seat for a young person. Why is it the young people are not going for that position? Why is it that you want, what you want done? So ideally, if you have a question or you have something to say, please rise up on your feet, or let me just see, shoot up your hand. I have 3 questions already. You have something you want us to ask whilst the governor is coming here? Please, I feel like you have. Please rise up. Come to the front. Makofi yake, I want us to learn to celebrate people. What is your name, sir?
Thank you so much. My name is Kirago Moriso, a political scientist. I just want to say that concerning youth participation in elective process, I want to say that I was part of you said 24%, Mr. Willis, of young people who came out to vie for seats in 2022. I myself, I vied for an MP seat in Kipipiri constituency in Nyandarua County.
So you broke limits.
At the age of 23 years old. I was nominated as a candidate by the Good Party, the Service Party of Kenya, TSP. And I want just to highlight one of the challenges that we have as young people in elective politics, especially in the rural areas, is monetary politics. Our voters have been conditioned to getting money so as to vote for a certain candidate. And I want just to highlight that monetary politics has rotten the ropes of our democracy, especially in mashinani. So you find our voters back in the village, they'll vote for a person who gives them more handouts. And suppose you're a young person with a great ambition and a vision for that constituency or that area, you'll not be voted in, simply because you don't have the financial capability to give voters money. So I think monetary aspect is one of the hindrances that our young people are going through when vying for these political seats. So as I wind up, I want just to say that let us rise up as young people, unite and support each other. Because when I was vying for that MP seat, even young people were not concerned. Most of them didn't even support me, simply because I don't have money. So if you don't have that clear vision of what that young candidate can offer, you're just looking at the pockets, will not go anywhere. So there is a there's need for purpose and unity of purpose within young people, amongst young people, so that we can develop Kenya and make it a good democratic country. Thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Wapi makofi yake. We have his comment down. All right, please allow me to also, Elsie too. Please do speak.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Miriam Opondo. I work for UDA party as a disabled representative. I've heard people talk about youth. Perfect. But my question is, my concern, when we are talking about youth, we are only focusing on normal youth. But what about, we forget to talk about the youth with disability. Most youth with disability also want to vie, but they don't have the money, they don't have sponsorship. So when we talk about youth, we are leaving also youth with disability. We cannot achieve if we don't have, we are not including youth with disability. As we think about youth, we also need to put in mind youth with disability. Many youth with disability are interested to vie, but they don't have the support. And also, during elections, most youth with disability, they don't have ID. Because now, the place to get the IDs is not accessible. They cannot access the IDs. So as we think anything about the youth, how to sponsor the youth, we need to think about youth with disability, accessibility to be nominated in this position.
Asante sana. Let us give him a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, as our speaker was asking his question, you did notice the arrival of His Excellency the Governor of Bungoma, the Honorable Kenneth Lusaka. Can we give him a round of applause, tafadhali? Your Excellency, thank you very much for taking the time to join us at this political party's village as part of the People's Dialogue Festival. Of course, as most of you know, that the governor is uniquely qualified to talk about devolution and social governance, having been the first and now the third governor of Bungoma County, as well as the Speaker of the Senate. So he has experience in terms of devolution, both on the executive side and on the legislative side. This, I think, is an experience that no other governor currently enjoys. So he is uniquely qualified to speak about devolution, and we are very honored that you've been able to make time for us. So without much further ado, I'd like to welcome you to perhaps make your remarks and to address us on the same. Can you be upstanding and give His Excellency the Governor a very hearty round of applause? Hiyo makofi baada hajatosha. Asante sana.
Thank you so much. Like you have been told, my name is Kenneth Lusaka. Lusaka, like the capital city of Zambia, and Kenneth, the former president of Zambia. Currently, the governor of Bungoma County. But before that, maybe just a quick background. I have served in public service for the last about 35 years. Having started as a district officer, I became a district commissioner. After that, I became the first secretary, provincial administration, office of the president. Then also served as a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Livestock Development. Then became the first governor of Bungoma County, 2013 to 2017. Then I became the third speaker of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, a position I served till 2022, when I got another opportunity to serve as the governor, third governor of Bungoma County. So I'm really humbled to be here today to share my experiences of what we understand with devolution. First, when I was doing my master's degree in Netherlands, my thesis was on decentralization. And decentralization encompasses devolution. We have two types, delegation and devolution. Delegation is a system where maybe you must have heard of district focus for rural development, where authority was delegated to the district commissioners, district officers, but resources who are retained at the center. Now the difference is with the devolution, the new constitution that was promulgated in 2010, decision-making power and resources were taken to the counties, were taken to the people. That's why we talk about 48 governments with one government for 7 counties. So we all belong to a county. Now, what are some of the takeaways in terms of the constitution, the devolution system that we put in place? One of the takeaways is public participation. It's a very, very key aspect of devolution, where any decision taking place, public must participate. And if they don't participate, anybody going to court can challenge that decision. And one of the areas that has benefited so much from public participation is the budget making process. Because unlike before devolution, budgets will be made in Nairobi, and somebody sitting in Nairobi Harambee House would imagine people in Bungoma want water, when people in Bungoma maybe want roads. So this time with devolution, Mwananchi has been given an opportunity to say exactly what they want. So you go for public participation, which is attended by members of the county assembly, members of public, members of parliament, if they are available, to make decisions on what they want to do. Again, we're talking about having devolved power to the counties. As a governor, you are like a mini president in your county. You make decisions without necessarily referring to the national government. You sit with your cabinet, that's why you have your cabinet, and you come up with implementation matrix of your manifesto, say when you are looking for elections. That is why it is the most important thing that ever happened in this country is devolution. Because for the first time, we have counties like Wajir, where a Caesarean had never taken place, now taking place. We have counties that had never seen tarmac because development was dictated by how you voted. For example, if you didn't vote for the government, then the president would decide that he's going to punish you. Maisha mbaya, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. But this time with devolution, and if it works properly the way the makers of the constitution wanted, then we will not need the president to decide for you what you want, but you will be able, funds will come to the counties and you will make a decision on what you want. There are a few functions that have remained at the national government, for example, foreign affairs, national things like vaccinations and all those. Otherwise, all these other decisions are actually made at the county level. Of course, like any other democracy, like any other government, the national government will not be comfortable to cede all the functions. So there's always a tug of war. And one of the issues that has been delayed a lot of implementation is funds not coming to the counties in a timely manner. So sometimes, because we depend on shareable revenue, that is the money that is given by the shared between the national government and the county government, and the on-source revenue, which is not so much. So when it delays the implementation of programs. So I think, in a nutshell, devolution gives you and I an opportunity to do what? To implement the things that you want. And we have seen a lot of growth. For example, this year, Madaraka Day is going to be held in Bungoma County, 1st June. So there are a lot of activities that are now happening in the county of Bungoma, which would hitherto not have happened if it were not for devolution. We now have, for example, devolution conferences. We have very many conferences that are going to the counties, and very many counties now have built their capacity in terms of accommodation, for example, hospitality industry. A lot of counties have also built capacities of the local contractors, because a lot of the work that is now happening in the counties is also being done by the local contractors. So we have built capacity of our people. Of course, we still have the challenges. Some counties, a lot of expectations, and they don't raise a lot of on-source revenue. And sometimes when there's that delay for funds coming from the national government, they suffer implementation of the programs that they have. But all said and done, that's not insurmountable. I think the positives far much outweigh the negatives that we are going through as a result of devolution. So we are on course. This is the 3rd generation of governors who are now participating in devolution, and we are looking forward to even the system improving much more. For example, during our first term, there was a lot of difference, there was a lot of debate between, say, the county assemblies and the governors who did not understand. There was a lot of infighting, but that has really reduced because everybody has now understood their roles. When you talk about accountability, why we have a county assembly, the county assembly must be able to oversight the executive, because they are the ones who appropriate money. If they tell you, we have given you 100 shillings to go and buy bread, and you buy soda, you must be able to explain why you changed. That is what we talk about accountability. I'm just using that simple example. So there must be that distinction between the executive and the legislature. One oversights, represents, and it's legislation. The assembly is legislation, representation, and oversight. Those three roles. So once everyone plays their role well, there should be no problem. So I'm just here to confirm that as somebody who has served as a district commissioner during delegation, and now somebody who has served as a governor, serving as a governor, there's a big difference when you have resources and you have to make decisions at the rural, at the low level. And as somebody who has also sat as the speaker of the house that oversights counties, the 47 counties, I was there and I had a bird's eye view of exactly how counties are run. So with all that wealth of experience, I'm sure that we should be able to take our country forward. I think I want it to be an interactive session. If there are any questions or issues that you want me to respond to, I'll be glad to do that. But I just wanted to give that as an oversight.
Ladies and gentlemen, a powerful round of applause for His Excellency Governor Lusaka. Your Excellency, thank you for making time to join us for this program. Thank you for sharing your experience on devolution. And of course, Waswahili husema palipo na wazee. Yes, so even though the governor was prepared to speak about devolution, there's nobody more experienced here to speak also about youth in governance and social programs. And those of you who were here earlier, we were discussing youth in governance being led by the youth cafes. So now that the governor is here, I think both programs are going to benefit. And vijana wale wako hapa, they will get an opportunity to ask a few questions, and the governor will be able to share his wisdom in terms of devolution and also in terms of the youth. Sini sawa namna hiyo, so that everybody benefits from the experience and from the wisdom that the governor shares with us. So with those few remarks, I'd like to welcome Daphne back as our moderator to take a few questions which the governor will be able to address, and then we can be able to proceed in an orderly fashion. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Wapi makofi yake tena. Again, Your Excellency, thank you so much for giving us your time. We know it's very precious. Again, please celebrate His Excellency for joining us in this session. So right before you came, we were just having some few discussions, also some few questions. Some of them were actually raising, and we were trying to see how to support and amplify, of course, youth in governance and electoral processes. And we were trying to understand why there was a decline between 2017 and 2022 in matters of voter registration and also youth participation in just electoral processes. We're also now getting into why there was a 2% of decline in matters women participation, also in politics, also in governance. Those are some of the things that we were trying to discuss, and some of them brought some particular issues. But first, sir, I really want to introduce to you Mr. Willis Onyango. He's also the founder of Youth Cafe. He had some few questions concerning, of course, women inclusion, seeing that it is International Women's Day. Wanawake oye! Happy International Women's Day. Awesome. All right, so please, would you ask the first question?
Thank you so much, and to His Excellency the Governor for gracing the occasion as well and engaging with us. We just launched a report, a comprehensive audit of the last general elections from a youth point of view. And when we talk of youth, we mean young men and women. And the insights we got from here were illuminating, as well as they were instructive. But briefly, as it relates particularly to counties, we looked also at youth performance as candidates and as voters within counties. And we found that in the last elections, 317 young people were elected as MCAs. But out of these 317, only 14 were young women. So today being the International Women's Day, how can we bring more young women to not leave them behind in the whole devolution agenda? And then secondly is the cost of running for office for young people. It has been raised here, and it is also a very big issue in the report, that with the Election Financing Act not effective, it is prohibitive increasingly for many young people who want to compete on an equal level playing field against their older counterparts who have more resources and more networks, yet young people bring new resources and fresh ideas to the table of governance. How can we work to bridge the gap, the intergenerational gap in terms of youth in elective positions? Thank you.
All right. Lala, do you have the microphone? Yeah, please, let me just allow His Excellency to maybe answer that first, and then we can get into everybody.
I want to agree with you that elective positions in Kenya have become so commercial.
Yeah.
It goes to the highest bidder. And if you are poor with your brilliant ideas, you hardly get elected. Most youth fall in that bracket. And we must try to change the narrative. We must have people who will be prepared even to lose an election but don't bribe voters. Because as it is now, when you address people even with bright ideas, they will start telling you hata wewe ulipita kitambo malizana na sisi uende. You don't have to waste our time. Just finish with us because you are already going to win. Ama unatuacha aje. How are you leaving us? So with even those brilliant ideas. So I think that report is so accurate that we need to find a mechanism, a way of trying to either ring fence certain positions, and that's the cost of democracy. The way we have done, the way they did affirmative action for women representative, women members of parliament, because the gender rule was not working. As a speaker in the Senate, of course people will talk about it, they will mobilize, but when it comes to voting, even the women, some of the women themselves disappear, the men don't honor what they said, and you find that it has never worked. So we may need again to get to a point where we ring fence certain positions for the youth until we get to a point where they can also compete favorably. That is the same for women, because sometimes the terrain is very unfair to women. You can run into a very violent crowd mobilized by, say, men to make it impossible for the women to compete. So again, this is a conversation that we must have as a country. But I want to agree with you is that it is so commercialized. For one to be, for example, elected, that financing act is not working. I think maybe they need to look at how practical it can be implemented. I can tell you, in some areas, to stand for, say, a governor, you will not use less than 100 million shillings, just for logistics and also paying people listening allowance, standing allowance, and all manner of allowances that you pay to the people. So all those things are practical things, and I'm telling you from a practical point of view. We have lost great leaders with great ideas, with great visions, just because they are poor. Or on the voting day, you find that people are visited, people line up, people pass through some corners to be able to be influenced in the manner in which they are going to vote. So that's a conversation that we must discuss as a country. Thank you.
All right, okay, awesome. So I have one question from a Brian Kithinji here. I know I'm pressed for time, so please allow me to represent you, but you can stand up for recognition. So, sir, here, this question. The trends show that youth voter registration declined from 2017 to 2022. Could it be that the Universities Amendment Act of 2016 that limited elective student politics be the leading mitigating factor, since campus is the entry point of any political activity? What are your thoughts, sir? Let me come again. The trends, and if I misrepresent you, please stand up and explain to the Excellency. So the trends show that youth voter registration declined from 2017 to 2022 by 5%. Could it be that the Universities Amendment Act of 2016 that limited elective student politics, could it be that that is the leading mitigating factor, and because campus is the entry point of any political activity?
Yeah, let me say this, that the problem that we have talked about also goes to the universities. During our time at the university, and I'm confirming that I went to University of Nairobi, just to be, for avoidance of doubt. The student leadership then was, actually it was more of oratory skills played a key role. If you look at people like PLO Lumumba, Mwandawiro Muganga, we had Adungosi. These were people who were being voted because of what they stood for. And the universities were the most feared even by governments. People like James Orengo, was a student leader. People like Murisa Kitui were student leaders. So that was the ground, the breeding ground for great leaders that the country later produced. But again, the problem of commercialization has also crept into the universities. You find that even now, to become a SONU leader, for example, you have also to use a lot of money these days. You have to bribe students, you have to do that. So again, we must find out, like Chinua Achebe says, where the rents began to beat us. Where did we lose that moral standing, whereby now we have to pay money to be elected? I remember, for us, we'd go to Kamukunji, and somebody would come. Of course, he may not be saying anything useful, like, somebody, I remember somebody will say, we are here, comrades, because we are not elsewhere. You have not said anything, but comrades, we are here, power, comrades, power, comrades, we are here because we are not elsewhere. We were not, you say, when we came here, we were not interviewed to come here. We went through the bottleneck of exams to be a power comrades, and just that, you carry the way people, you work on their emotions and they vote for you. But these days, even if you say power comrades, we are here not because ukibaliza unakuambia unatuachaje. Give us something. So that we must reverse. We must now go back to those student leaders, to the student leadership who came, and you can see the people. If you look at the second liberation, most of us here are young. Most of you, when I look, are young. But you look at the people who fought for the second liberation of this country. They started their leadership at the universities. We are talking about Wakina Urengo, Wakina Murisa Kitui, Wakina George Anyona, Wakina, all those people who brought the second liberation, people who saw multipartyism come into effect in 1991. So we must go back. I think maybe that act, I've not looked, I don't know what it says, but we must get back to those days where students were based on ideology. And now that I'm even here, I was asking the gesture of political parties. How many political parties do we have in Kenya? I was told there are 90. As much as we want to talk about democracy, if you go to these advanced democracies, most of the parties are either 3 or 4, based on ideology. But here, we form political parties for elections. Political parties should not be formed for election purposes. It should be based on ideology. If you remember, when Ford came up to challenge KANU, to beat KANU in the 202 elections, it was best. You could see that those people had some ideology. They were removing KANU because of what they believed was the misrule of KANU those days. But these days it's a mixed grill. You go to a party for convenience. If you realize you will not be given a nomination, you go to a party where you are the party leader, the chairman, and everything. So you give yourself a nomination certificate. Try your luck. If you pass, yes. If you don't pass, you form another briefcase party and continue. So again, we must get back to ideology. What do you stand for? When we look at these manifestos, people just remove the name, but what is there is copy and paste. What is in this party is what is in party A, party B. We need parties based on ideology and to stand for something. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. All right. I think we have maybe less than 5 minutes. I have one person here to ask a question, then that's it. You have another one? I'll represent you, sir. Please rise up quickly.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Governor Lusaka. I only have one question to ask you. We have seen that there are so many hindrances to youth vying and being elected in the Kenyan democracy. Let me ask a question. In the tenets of the beauty of democracy, do you think that introducing a youth representative seat, elective seat, would work in such a society? Thank you.
Awesome. And maybe the next one, then you can answer both. Please, rise.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you for gracing this occasion. Your Excellency, you began by talking about participation. Our major challenge in any participatory elections, particularly that we are talking about holding governments either at the county or at the national level accountable. Participation has been again used as a conduit. Participation is being staged, even at the county levels. Bwana Governor, tutafika wapi kama tutaendelea kuwapatia wananchi nafasi, tutawanyima nafasi ya kuweza hata kutoa sauti zao? Asante.
I want to agree. We had a bill which came to Senate. I think it didn't go through yet, which wanted to define what public participation is. I agree. What happens these days is you bring your sycophants and supporters who have already been trained on what to come and say. They have already been looked at, you know what I mean in quotes. Their interests have been taken care of. So you come and selectively pick those who support you. Then wanasema tumepitisha ile tunaita bila kupingwa. That is not public participation the way we want it to be. Public participation should be real public participation where people are given an opportunity to interrogate the programs or what you are talking about, and should be at random, both those who support you and who don't support you. I agree with you that as it is now, it is just, it is a ritual. Because it's if you bring people in a bus, do you expect them to say, to oppose you? You can be left there and you go back on foot. So, or if you bring people who have nothing, people who are poor, they are at your mercy. So we need to really come up with that law that will protect and define what public participation is. The other question was whether we should ring fence. I agree with you that we need, just like I said, that for our youth, just the way we did with the women, we may need to get to a point where we ring fence certain positions for the youth, for them to be able to participate. Otherwise, they will always be left behind because the terrain is not equal, because they don't have resources to run for elections. But of course, again, you will not be a youth forever. So once you cross the line of a youth, you must then relinquish and leave for other youth. Even the seat for the women was supposed to be an affirmative seat. But now, some of them think it's a permanent seat to continue just representing people. I think we need also to define how long that seat should be, and for, how many terms can you run as a youth, or you give an opportunity to another youth to run. Like I see Madam there saying it should be one term of women rep or one term as youth. But I agree, we need to ring fence seats for the youth in every constituency so that they can also be represented, because they're just being left behind. They are being told you are the future leaders. The future will never come. The future must be today. Yeah. Otherwise, you say if you are the leaders for the future, when it comes, you will be an old man. You will not be a youth. Thank you so much.
All right, please. I want to take one more question from a representative. Yes, from persons of disability. Just one more question. Please come here. There you go.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Governor for Bungoma, Mr. Lusaka. I've heard you just talk about your history and the way you have experience in devolution. But my concern is also on participation, what you call public participation. Many have raised concerns about it, but my concern is a bit unique, because one thing, public participation is supposed to be accessible. And when I mean accessible, meaning any person, any Kenyan with or without a disability, man or woman, and even without discriminating anyone, should be able to access public participation. Most of them don't have sign language interpreters. Most of the people who are physically disabled on wheelchairs cannot access the halls, either maybe because they are not friendly. So for me, when I hear about public participation, I do not understand. Thank you.
That's it. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Again, I cannot agree with you more, because it is true, we still have challenges when we go for public participation. People with disability, like those, we don't have interpreters. So that's an area that we need to improve. And that's why even now buildings, we are insisting that when you're putting up a building, you must give provision for people with a disability. Yeah. So we are not yet there, but I'm sure there are intentions, good intentions to get there. But otherwise, I agree with what you're saying, that you also need to be brought on board. I think that's what I can say.
Okay,
thank you.
Right. So, sir, I really want to thank you for this session. Thank you for giving me the honor. My name is Daphne Mokamikimani. I've been your moderator now. I want to hand over the microphone because I'm told you're pressed for time, and we have to really honor that. So thank you so much, sir. I think you can take over.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for His Excellency the Governor. I think just before we release His Excellency to go, today being Happy International Women's Day, we will take a small photograph with the Governor, and we will have 3 or 4 ladies from different groups. I think we have one person with disability that I've already recognized. If you don't mind, you can join His Excellency on stage. Students, who do we pick from the students? Who wants a photo with His Excellency Governor? You raised your hand very fast. Kama raka. Which group is this in the nice t-shirts? Huh? Aya, kuja. I think the lady, yes, you, please. Please join His Excellency. Is there a group that, which interest group of, oh. Ati what? Aya, wewe kuja basi. Aya, so His Excellency Governor, if you do not mind, I humbly request you to commemorate your presence here and happy International Women's Day. Kindly take a photograph with these wonderful women as part of our attendance today. Asanteni sana. All right, we can now allow His Excellency the Governor to take his leave. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for His Excellency Governor. Asante sana. That was a wonderful session on devolution, and he managed to speak on youth and governance. We were okay. Can I have your attention, please? We need to really improve our time management. So I will hand over back to Daphne for the plenary discussion that we were having on youth and governance. Aya, can I get 1 minute? DJ, give me some music. I need to consult and be given instructions, and then we shall be able to proceed. DJ, just 1 minute. Proceeding.
Alright, guys, how's the session right now? We're all looking like we are eavesdropping. How was the session? Please let me just nipatie nipungie mkono if you enjoyed the session a bit. Yeah, how was the session for you guys? Can I get Can I get a comment, please? I like talking to people. Maybe talk to me back. Wasn't able to read your entire essay, but at least one was answered, isn't it? All right. Okay, fine. Please, one. You're smiling so good at me. Would you maybe stand up and say something? Yeah. Okay, please. Maybe come to the front so they can see your beautiful face. It's also International Women's Day. Please, a round of applause for a lady looking very smart in yellow and black.
You're looking awesome too. Well, I think the session was very engaging. My name is Patience Yange. I enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the participation. I also listened to the questions that you asked, and particularly from the young people. So thank you for facilitating a very great engagement. Thank you.
All right. Wow. Awesome. My coffee. All right. Another one. Maybe you want some 2 seconds of fame. There's a whole camera here, and it's being recorded. Hey, good. Jitate. Come here. Please, makofi yake.
Thank you very much. Patience Nyange comes from Mundanyi. She's my icon. I am Marion Wachia. I come from Mundanyi as well. I'm the Deputy President, Economic Student Association of Kenya. There is the banner. I've come with our President, Mr. Victor Kimwamu. Can I invite him? Yes, please, Mr. Victor Kimwamu. Karibu sana.
Thank you all. Good morning. My name is Victor Kimwamu. I lead a team of 3,000 young disruptors in the Republic of Kenya. We believe that with unity, we are purposeful, and with unity, we can do very, very much more. I'm not so sure how the program is aligned, but probably we'll have a panel session just shortly, and we are CASA, and get in touch with us to see what we can do together, youth governance, economics. We see on what we can do, and not just do it, but do it well. Thank you very much. Asante.